Conclusion, explanation, and an end to a confusing, misdirecting title involving fluffy, warm socks on a cold Seattle Capitol Hill day in Washington State. Now, checking, rechecking, remembering, and then doing, and then making sure. DSM manuals for psychiatrists usually call obsessive compulsive. Insisting on beauty and artistic precision. For some, uncontrollable and in need of some assistance for their difficulty and problems now. There's humans who enjoy the confusion of hallucination. They drink a cup of tea of ayahuasca only once. They fall asleep into a dream, trance, lucid, vivid, and exotic place far away from planet Earth and distractions and misdirections and confusions. They awake and they decisively or casually declare consciousness must provide simplicity, stimulation, reward, and psychology within a system and processes to not have their emotions and their body temperature change. In other words, a color mood when all they said with their language was tap, 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 whisper, 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 voice, 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 to have their awareness and their attention concentrated and focused on a task, on an example. In a philosophy theory book, they write about their method in their model of mathematics and logic and equations and paranoia. And then there are those who go and they eat those acid sugar cubes, smoke that crystal methamphetamine crack, and run and run and scream and yell and beg for more and more and more to continue their addiction, described by a doctor in a university called Huskies. The cougar, the Viking, the college university classroom where monkeys and rats, Charles Manson supposedly were experiments about behavior. When energy gets removed, and a social worker, counselor begins a delusion, in a box they provide for their patient client, who they lock inside and make sure have no bed bugs and have a smoke detector to let everyone else know when they set themselves on fire, to have no more ego, to have a mind to watch these videos, to have information to share with the authorities about a terrorist suspect they have located and identified who causes 509 schizophrenia. Now, in a house with the room rented, and paid to a name on a check called Caroline W. Apartments, they all, them all, this all, and all other words and languages and letters and sounds and dialects and ethnicities and cultures involved in linguistics did the work to get a grant for the free services and free energy called electricity. They coordinate and schedule with a food bank to give some food and some bread and some moldy vegetables and some packaged processed pasta to keep their subject alive and not dead and in need of disposal in their trash after cremation during a coronavirus pandemic on planet Earth now. Using eye contact, similar to a first example of those who hallucinate and want clarity, bright colors, and a community house for them to have their consciousness available whenever they need what they say has to do with a word I spoke out loud now. And no difference, no explanation intellectually involved in some sort of dissertation for a PhD can defeat their logic, mathematically explained with their career they earned and achieved in a professional certification they got when they threw their hat in the air and graduated as ruler of planet Earth and mathematically pi now. From tests they passed, study breaks they ignored, to have more information available for their brain, their mind, to know who to control, when to limit, and how, most importantly of all, to eliminate a threat to their procedure for having less death and more silence and quiet from a man who says to y'all, them all, they all, this all, and those all, and everyone else all, they're military. They're affiliated with a gangster, mafia, cartel, and their graffiti on walls and their echoes. And time limits with only 4 minutes and 50 seconds remaining are a countdown towards their obsession with what they see and hear as explicitly intense when they want peaceful and religiously quiet and calm when they demand an end to a party they make with their friends and share with their wisdom after they've seen a ghost and frozen a dragon solid. To have their limits expand and their consciousness explained, and then their mind, similar to a lake on a spring day at Glacier National Park in Montana now. And these two groups join together and they call themselves communists, socialists, progressives, and less extreme than those militias with those red, nasty old colors that they have now taken and said China, Russian food for free, vaccines made over there, and all of those plastics grown in their labs. And now no more fighting and no more violence when those strong, dominant thug gangsters, those feminist women, use their faces to stop a voice on a video now from interrupting their processes in their system they call a procedure for identifying who needs to go to where, and most importantly, when, at what time, to have room for their thoughts and their thinking in their classroom to be similar to a Uyghur Muslim in a genocide, in a part of the world where there's no longer a Tibet and a Dalai Lama. There are work requirements and no more prayer flags blowing in a wind spontaneously. Now, the end.